I'm aware that many of you have expressed a desire for online counseling, and to that effect, we have a sponsor who will help you and assist you in that respect. So if you will, go beneath the video, you'll find a link to our online counseling sponsor. They have a whole team of counselors that can help you. Practice self-care, get the help that you need. A number of years ago, there was a very interesting study that tried to determine what the primary ingredients were for successful relationships. And without going into all the detail, the second most important ingredient in relationships is communication. The number one ingredient in healthy relationships is trust. But right after trust, we have to have good communication. And to me, that made a whole lot of sense when I first came upon that and went through the whole study. One of the things that's so necessary is that when we have our relationships, whether it's in our moments of leisure or just trying to come to terms with what we're going to do with the day, we certainly need to communicate, but especially when we have our moments of differentness or when we have moments of conflict, there needs to be a strong commitment to having good communication skills. But there's some individuals, and I know you probably know some people who do this. I hope you're not one of these that goes into this mode yourself. But there's some people when the time is there to have that good, solid, open communication, they do the very opposite. They go into shutdown mode. They go into this passive-aggressive approach toward you and toward the circumstance. And it can be terribly confounding because you may be the kind of person that says, we need to talk, or I want to hear what's going on with you, or enlighten me. Tell me what's going on the inside of your mind. You're the kind of person that wants to engage, and frankly, that's a very good thing and a reasonable thing for you to desire. Now, there are some individuals who can go into shutdown mode, sometimes for hours at a time, or days at a time, or weeks, or I've known many cases where a person can go into shutdown mode with certain people for decades. It's like, I'm not even going to talk to you. You're not worth it. And so for whatever reason they can just pull back and let it be known. If you're looking for communication from me, you're looking in the wrong direction. These individuals can be masters at giving you one-word answers. They can just sometimes just give you a blank stare and then walk away. Maybe they'll refuse to return telephone calls or emails or text messages. They can seem to be chronically evasive and unavailable. You know, they're the ones that can maybe say, well, okay, I'll do this, and then they no-show, or they can be predictably unreliable and change plans, things like that. And all the while that they're doing this, they're sending messages. Frankly, in its worst case scenario, you can see that this form of behavior, particularly when it's an ongoing pattern, is a type of abuse. It's their way of very deliberately letting you know with the targeted messages, I find you to be unfit. And if I have to make you feel uncomfortable, or if I have to shame you through this means, I'm willing to do that. You're not worthy. And many times that is the case. Now, maybe we could say that when people go into shutdown mode, it can be their way of implying that they have outside stressors and they don't know what to do with that. And so they can say, well, I've just been under a lot of tension lately. But I think sometimes that's just giving them too much leeway. Frankly, even if you are under stress, it doesn't warrant going into this kind of punishing shutdown mode that most of them tend to do. And you're over there thinking, I can't get through to this person. What did I do to deserve this treatment? You know, are you going to continue to do this to me? And it's the ultimate exasperation. Now, best case scenario, when we look at that person who goes into shutdown mode, we can say that they're trying to indicate, hey, look, I just need some space. And again, I go back to the thought that says, okay, fair enough, that's good. And yet, you can at least communicate, hey, look, I know that you're wanting to talk right now, but I need some space, and let's pick up on it when the time is a little bit better. And they actually follow through. Okay, that's fair. But basically, when that's not really the case, there are all sorts of implied messages that these shutdown people are sending to you. Basically, they're saying, you mean nothing to me, or sometimes less than nothing to me, or I'm only concerned about my own needs. Haven't you figured that out? And now they won't necessarily say that out loud, but that's really what they're implying. Or they may imply this relationship is not really worth the effort, or you are not worth the effort. Or I'm just not able to manage stress with you. I quit. I just don't want to do life in a full, mature kind of way. That's what they're implying through their shutdown. Now, let's underscore that there are reasons that people will do this kind of thing. You know, when you say, why are you doing this to me? Sometimes we just need to drop those last two words, to me. Why are you doing this? Because I operated on the assumption they're going to be doing this no matter who happens to be on the stage with them, because this is their coping skill that they have chosen. And so you want to be very careful that you don't turn this into a referendum about who you are. Instead, let's acknowledge that when people go into that type of shutdown mode, they're game players. They're manipulators. They know that there's a better way to engage with people, but they just don't do it. Or another thing we can say about these manipulators, they have a very strong need to be in control. And so being open and being vulnerable about their needs and feelings and interpretations can make them feel like they're not in control. So their silence or their shutdown and withdrawal and evasiveness is their way of saying, hey, guess who's in charge here? And that goes way back to other kind of dynamics beyond just you. These are individuals who operate with a deep sense of pessimism about life in general. They've concluded, if I'm open in my communication, I don't think it's going to end very well, or I just don't trust people. And so you have to ask, what's going on there? And usually there's a deep history that needs to be unpacked in that regard. And then, in addition, somewhere along the line, they decided the best way to influence people is to punish them. And typically you can find that in their deep background that there's been a history of shame and condescension and harsh criticism. And so rather than thinking, I don't need to keep doing that, it's like, okay, when it's my turn, I'll just do it even better. So as you respond to these individuals who go into this strong shutdown mode, let's take a look at some of the ways that you can manage your side so that you don't get completely pulled in the way that makes them feel even more empowered. First, and I want to say this gently, okay? First, be willing to examine your role in that person's behavior. Now, some people might tell me privately, well, the reason I go into shutdown mode is because this other individual is so overwhelming, or they don't listen, or they invalidate me, or they constantly interrupt, so I quit. And sometimes there's validity to it. Now, when I say be sure to be willing to examine your role, I'm not saying take responsibility for who they are, or I'm not saying that you ought to be ashamed of yourself if that person does it, but I'm just saying just be objective. And if there's something on your side that could be adjusted so that this dynamic does not have to occur, then be open to that possibility. Now, having said that, let's also recognize that these individuals, like I said just a minute ago, have a manipulative game playing kind of thing. Absolutely do not go into the pleading or insistent mode of communication when someone shuts down on you. So many times people say, well, quit doing this, or I hate it when you act this way toward me. That just emboldens them. It's just like, giving them fuel for their maladaptive behavior. Instead, maintain your routines. And whatever it is you have going on, whether it's in the work setting or at home, or if you have outside activities that you need to do, go ahead and do it. And if they say they don't like it, well, just do what you know is wisest and best. And then in addition to that, stay connected with people who do have healthy communication styles. You know, sometimes when you're associated with that person who has that strong shutdown, after a while you begin thinking, well, am I the problem? And when you're around people that do appreciate you and will communicate and be open, it reminds you that no, you're not really the problem, and that there are plenty of healthy skills that you have. And so make sure you apply those skills with people who can appreciate who you are. And then ultimately, we're going to say you may have to rethink the viability of the relationship moving forward. Again, if it's in a social situation, a work situation, marriage, or extended family, if this is going to be an ongoing kind of thing, at some point, it's like, I don't need to be exposed to this. And keep in mind what I said a few minutes ago. Sometimes it gets to the point of abusive, and do you need to stay in a relationship that's going to be this dysfunctional? So we go back to that notion. The second most important thing in a relationship behind trust is the need for communication. I hope that you can be the kind of person that says, when you're in my presence, I am going to be open. And I'm going to have that willingness to have that back and forth didactic engagement. And if this other individual chooses not to go in that healthy kind of way, then I still need to stay healthy. And I don't want to take my cues from that person. I know that there's a strong passive-aggressive anger element that's there, and that can be one of the most difficult patterns to deal with. But the key is for you to be on to what they're doing, and then you establish your pace in the healthy direction. Now, I hope that videos such as this give you some good insight and awareness. And if you've not already subscribed to this channel, the Dr. Les Carter channel, you know, we also already have our Surviving Narcissism. But if you want to subscribe to the Dr. Les Carter channel, I would welcome that. And just click that button, and we'll keep more videos coming your way. It could be that something like this provokes the need for counseling on the inside of you. And if you have a counselor in your area that you could seek out, then I would encourage you to do that. If that's not the case, or if you would prefer otherwise, we have a sponsor for online counseling, and their link is below, and there's a whole team of people that could help you and assist you in sifting these kind of things out. And I would encourage you to take advantage of that if the need is there. In addition, we have my webinars, my courses, free to be, and we have a new one coming up very soon called This Is Me, about establishing boundaries, so keep an eye on that. And then links to my books like When Pleasing You Is Killing Me and The Anger Trap. So take advantage of our resources. I know that it can just leave you shaking your head when you're around that shutdown person, but at the same time, I'm hoping that they don't bring out the dysfunction in you to the extent that they can say, see, look at this. Instead, I want you to be a person who's awake and aware and has a steadiness. You know who you are, and that person is not going to take charge of your pattern of life. Be the kind of person that says, I'm on Team Healthy, and you can't pull me off of that.